Okay, foods that aren't allowed. In my life as a type 1 diabetic, I have gone through many different diabetic diets. The first one was you received a little blue book that was the exchange book. And in this book, you could be told you had certain amounts of proteins. It was usually ounces. You had a certain number of vegetables. I believe there was a vegetable A list and a vegetable B list. Who knew? Next, it was milk, dairy, and you could pretty well only have what was on this list. Anything else was completely not available to you. I can remember family members getting so upset. I was living with my sister, and I went to visit my dad in Alberta, and I got a meal. It was an hour flight, and we got a meal, okay? And there were lima beans, and it was so bad that I had some of these lima beans. Oh my God. And you're looking back on it, what was the friggin' point? There's no reason to get upset. But back then, you could only have what was on your food choice. That was it. From there, we moved to food choices, and we got this little wall graft, and it was made up of vibrant, happy colors. And you were just given choices. It was kind of nice that a lot of foods were getting the CDA label on the side. And that could tell you how much that did for one serving. That's since disappeared, but it was a nice touch. Now we've moved into an era where, as a type 1 diabetic, we can pretty well eat whatever we want. Type 2 diets may differ, but as a type 1, we can have whatever we want. There's really no foods that are not allowed. I used to preach the 80-20 rule. 80% of the time, you follow your diet and you do great. 10 or 20% of the time, you could go off and do whatever you want. I've since thought about this, and I thought, no, it really should be 90-10 rule. 90% of the time you're following, pretty healthy diets. 10% of the time you can splurge. Years ago, in the old diet system, I had a birthday, and I was with my dad, and we went out to dinner. And my birthday was a pretty, I had a good meal, and then he brought out a cake, and I got to blow out the candles and everything. But then it was served to everyone else except myself. I got an apple. I mean, my dad did an excellent job with what he had. He was just so busy with work and trying to succeed, which many fathers were. Any parent really was. So now I was upset. I kind of smiled, and the next time it rolled around, I damn well had a birthday cake. But we lived in that society that type 1 diabetics, you couldn't eat anything extra. If you did, oh my God, you were cheating. Everything was cheating. You had one extra orange in a day. Oh my God, you're cheating. You're not cheating. You have to remember to count the carbs and take the appropriate medication to cover the carbs. Pure and simple. So, where do we draw the line? I think it's pretty much individualizing what people really want. Somebody who has a sweet tooth, it may happen more often than someone who likes more savory foods. You have to ensure you understand how to carb count. It's important that you see a dietitian and that you review such things. Because if you don't, you're just gonna be a mess. Because if you mess up your carb counts, you're either gonna have too much sugar in the system or too much insulin. Too much sugar means you're going to have a high blood sugar. Too much insulin means you're going to have a lower blood sugar. And you could end up getting into the low cycle. Another issue is you could end up on the roller coaster. And once you get onto the roller coaster, it can be really difficult to get off of it. So, how do you live? Well, there are foods that hold a big punch of sugar. There's foods that have hidden sugars. You want to stay away from those. Processed meals. When I worked at a convenience store, I was surrounded by these things all the time. They were quick, they were fast. But let's take a look at what you can have. You want to not totally restrict, but cut back on red meats. There's chicken, there's pork, there's some people say, no, you should cut away all meats and you should follow the keto diet or you should follow this diet. Basically, what works for you as long as your body has enough sugar to combat the insulin you're putting into your system. Now, you don't want to constantly have high sucrose or high sugar foods. They're not going to help you. They're going to cause you more issues. You want to ensure that you take care. Monitor what you eat. Of course, count your carbs. That's always a good thing to do. Don't eat crap all the time. And I'll do another video that'll come shortly. Basically, you are what you eat. So try some greens, some vegetables. For years, I never tried eggplant. Oh, I swore I hated eggplant. Eggplant's not so good, and it makes you have the full feeling. Something I've learned, and just a little trick, it's not saying you have to have it, but green beans. When I had my service dog started to gain a few pounds, and the school suggested adding green beans to their diet. It makes them feel full, but it's not as complex as regular. So try some. But remember, there's no foods that a type 1 diabetic isn't allowed unless there's foodborne allergies or whatever. But on the whole, we can have what we want. We just have to make sure the proper carbs have been counted. With that, have a super day, and we'll talk again soon. Bye now.